Well, hello, thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. And we're continuing here at Dineen Presbyterian Church. And I want to talk to you about the Reverend John Carey. And he was a Presbyterian minister. But it's believed that he was actually a descendant of the sister of Anne Boleyn. And John Carey was born in 1800. And he died in 1891, so he lived to a ripe old age of 91 years. And he died here at Dineen in County Antrim. Now, as I say, he became a Presbyterian minister in Ballymena, and he was a minister also of the Presbyterian Church in various other places. And as I say, he claimed he was a descendant of the sister of Anne Boleyn, who was Mary Boleyn. So that would possibly and probably have made him a descendant of Anne Boleyn herself. Of course, Anne Boleyn was one of the six wives of King Henry VIII. And there's one sure thing about being a wife of King Henry VIII. You didn't have to worry about taking out insurance because you weren't going to live long enough to cash in on it. Because, of course, he was like an heir to the throne. And Queen Anne couldn't give him that heir, and so he had her put to death. And then John Carey here, the Reverend John Carey, is said to be a relative of Mary Boleyn, who was Anne Boleyn's sister. Now, John was involved in a shooting, a murder actually, but because of lack of evidence, this led to his release. So a bit of controversy there concerning that. And he also earned a reputation during the famine of lending money at extortionate rates of interest, but at the same time he became a benefactor to the poor and the destitute. And he erected a fine pump in Toome. Of course, we're near the village of Toome here, and he also built a small schoolhouse. But it is his temple of liberty, of learning and select amusement, for which, of course, he is best remembered. And this extraordinary building could seat 1,500, and it contained a library of 500 books. Now, it survived until 1910, and then it was burnt to the ground, unfortunately. So I'm going to take you and show you the grave of the Reverend John Carey. And, of course, as I say, he was a controversial minister. You can only go by what history says, because we weren't there. But what I want to do first is to show you some graves here of other ministers of this church. And this is the Elliot grave. It's a Reverend R.G., I think that is, or C, possibly. Elliot, B-A-H-C-F. And it's 1879, I think that is, till 1954, possibly. He was ordained in Dineen, 1903, and he died 31st of January, I think that's 1954, I think. And then it goes on for other members of the family. And the next grave that I want to show you is this one here. And this is another minister. This one is in memory of the Reverend Archibald Hutchison, who was ordained Presbyterian minister of Dineen. Sorry, it's not Dineen, it's Dun. I'm not sure what that says, to be honest. I think it is Dineen, I think some of it's just faded. And it says on the 10th of November 1818 and died the 5th of December 1813. This monument is erected by his... I can't make out the rest. I think that is Dineen, I think some of it's just faded. I'm not too sure, don't quote me on that. But that's the Reverend Archibald Hutchison. And there's another one I want to show you, and then I'm going to show you the Reverend John Carey's grave. And it is actually the most significant and biggest grave of the whole lot. But I want to show you this one first. cover the sun from you, as you can see. It says, in loving memory of Reverend William Denham, BA, for 40 years Minister of Dunedin. He died on the 14th of July 1883, and it goes on, other members of his family. And also in loving memory of Logan Irwin of Port Glenone, and he died 16th of September 1967, aged 77 years, and also his wife Elizabeth Denham Irwin, granddaughter of the Reverend William Denham, BA, and he died the 27th of March 1979, aged 85 years. So there you go. So that's 3 ministers, and then the 4th minister is buried here, and this is the Reverend Carey. As you can see, the Reverend John Carey, and it's full of scripture, and it's quite unique because you can see hands there. You can see the way they're interlocked. Don't think I've ever seen a grave like that, but it's like that the whole way around. As you can see, so quite unique. And then you also have a hand pointing upwards at the top, and I've seen that before. Can't make out the writing. I'll have to pause the video later and zoom in and see if I can make that out. You can see the crest there. In 1860. And it says their death certain, Romans 5:12. And this is full of text of scriptures, even this here. So it's literally full of scripture. So I'm going to read this middle part here to you. It's lineage. A very ancient race, firstly settled in the counties of York and Devon, England, and of Fife, Scotland, with Irish branches at Inishowen and Dungiven, renowned for courage, equity and learning, honoured with many eminent state offices, elevated to the several peerages of Hudson and Falkland, Monmouth and Dover, claiming kindred with the highest ranks in the empire and a nuptial affinity with the crown itself since the 16th century. Of course, referring to Anne Boleyn, and of course Mary Boleyn, who was the sister of Anne Boleyn. Then it says Seaburke's landed gentry. And the biography there, he was born on the 15th day of June 1800, died on the 23rd of August 1891. In life he was most ingenious, persevering and benevolent. In death, an example to all for these great moral virtues. And certainly that's some monument, isn't it? And of course, I'm going to read the obituary here to you. It says, John Carey, the founder of this monument and of the Temple Institution, Careyville, and of the Free Public Fountain of Water in Toome, and of the Free Christian Church at Black, British India, for the converts from heathenism there, and of the foundation, Carey Lectureship at Derry and Belfast, and many other founded bequests, religious, moral, literary and charitable, etc. And that there is the terrors of the broken law of the covenant of works. That's taken from Exodus 20 verse 18. I'll read just a wee bit of it to you. So terrible was the visible sight on Mount Sinai that Moses exceedingly feared and quaked, and the people removed and stood afar off. And that's Hebrews 12:21. So quite a unique monument here, I think you would have to agree. And then this one here is the consolations of the glorious gospel of the grace of God, and that's Acts 20 verse 24. And again, I'll read a wee bit of this. The gospel of this grace has abolished death and brought life and mortality to light by it. 2 Timothy 1 verse 10. And then it says, for this end Christ died and rose again, that he might be Lord, the Lord of the dead and the living. Romans 14 verse 9. And then it says, he suffered for their sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us unto God. 1 Peter 3:18. So there you go. That's the Reverend John Carey. And of course, he claimed to be a descendant of Mary Boleyn, who was the sister of Queen Anne Boleyn, the wife of Henry VIII. So thanks for watching, and God bless.